Loren!
In my previous vlogs, I've talked about how much I love books. But one of the things that I deeply love is when I'm in a movie theater, eating my popcorn, watching the previews, and then a trailer comes on, and it's a line from one of my favorite books. They're doing an adaptation, but I've been burned in the past. And just as much as it's wonderful to see a movie adaptation of one of your favorite books, it is painful to watch a movie that is based on a book that you love that is terrible. Recently, I read The Maze Runner. I feel that it's really important to read the book before you watch the movie. And I know that seems like I'm setting myself up for failure, because when I read a book and I really fall in love with it, then I'm going to watch the movie and be like, that wasn't in the book, that wasn't in the book. But I like to have the idea of what these characters look like, what the place looks like, already firm in my mind. So yeah, back to The Maze Runner. I mean, it was a decent movie. It captured my attention, but there were just so many glaringly obvious changes from the novel to the movie. I just don't understand why a producer, a director, a screenwriter feels the need to change the details in a book. Spoilers, but in The Maze Runner, one of the things that I loved about the book is that there was this obvious connection between Thomas and Teresa. They were able to speak telepathically to each other, which was awesome, and it was great to see that Teresa, through that, had level-headedness and was almost a leader. So you had a girl with an ability that everybody else in the Glade didn't have. But by taking out that ability, then you have Teresa just sort of like saying, what's going on? Where am I? I don't understand. She's turning to Thomas and asking him all the questions when he was the one who was going to her in the novel. This seems like a small change, but it changes the personality, the characterization of the novel's characters. Teresa is now seen as sort of weaker and not so much of a leader, not so much as somebody who is instrumental in figuring things out. She's more of the follower, she's more of the damsel, the love interest. And then at the end of Maze Runner, what was just baffling to me is they said screenwriting, and I think that there were 3 or 4 screenwriters for the Maze Runner, and I kept on thinking, how could 3 or 4 people, maybe it's a case of too many cooks in the kitchen. Now, Autumn brought up a good point to me when I'm in the theater. I was just sitting in my chair just cringing and like staring at the screen, and I kept on turning to her and saying, what? What are they doing? What are they doing? I was just so upset. She said, well, maybe what they're trying to do is that they know that for the readers, subconsciously we don't want to see exactly what's from the books. That they want to sort of surprise us, and that we're like saying, oh, well, they changed it. Let's see where they're going to take it in the next couple movies. These screenwriters and directors and producers don't know what repercussions they're creating, because it's a butterfly effect. Like with Harry Potter, I have such a love-hate relationship with the movies. Like, I love them so much. I love that they had the continuity of having the same actors for 8 movies, which is unheard of. But at the same time, just like over time, things were lost in translation. I think one of the key themes in Harry Potter is talking about racism, and I feel like they sort of just skim over that a little bit in the movies. Some small things are not a big deal. The fact that they didn't really introduce in Maze Runner the Glade and lay out what the Glade was like, and that these are the separate areas, that's okay. But whenever you change the entire ending of the movie to fit your screenplay, it's almost like very arrogant, saying, I know better than this author. Movie makers are able to get away with this. I think it's just all about the money, and that they're tricking readers into getting their butts in the seats in movie theaters. And I don't know how they're expecting us to want to go see the sequel. But there is hope, because, you know, this happened with the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games, the first movie, just the cinematography was off on it, just a ton of shaky cam. Peeta was not really a strong character, and I was very cautious when watching Catching Fire. I was so pleasantly surprised. They made up for it. I think they listened to their fans and said, you know what, let's try and stick as close to the book as possible. And yes, granted, they've still had to cut some characters. Like, I know we can't have a 5-hour movie, although with Harry Potter, I would gladly watch 5 hours. So they have to make it enticing to people that they could sit down without reading the book and understand what's going on. Sometimes I think these filmmakers don't even read the book. Like they say, oh, this was a cool book and it's super popular. It's on the New York Times bestseller list. It's gonna be money, baby. They miss the whole point. That's where it comes down to, is they miss the whole point. In novels, the author has set it up that the character goes on a journey from point A to point B. You need to find out how this character got from point A to point B. Okay, what sequence of events are things that are mandatory, that this character has to go through in order to become the character that they are at the end of this movie? Filmmakers need to respect the source material, respect the authors that went through all the time and energy to put their ideas onto the page, and were able to capture the imaginations of millions of people. Because even though I am a reader, reading takes time, and for somebody to want to devour a novel and to sit in one place and read the written word for 24 hours straight because they can't put this book down, that's saying something. I feel like that might be it, is that we're trying to take that experience of a favorite novel that takes time and energy to create and to read, and we're trying to do the microwave situation with it. And like, oh, it has to be in 2 hours or less. We need to get all these concepts that takes you hours and hours to read and put it into a much shorter packaged piece. Thanks for sticking around and listening to me. See you guys next week.